Well, this is your warm October greeting from Pop's Place right here in sunny Central Florida. It's way too warm for it to be October or fall, but we're going to do this anyway because fall is the time for lovely comfort food. That's the thing. And so this video, short and sweet, how to make a great simple meatloaf. Not tough. Not difficult, not hard to put together. It's very simple, and yet you'd be surprised how many people really don't know how to make a good meatloaf. So we're going to jump in to that today. I'm also going to be doing a side of probably a beautiful mashed potato. I thought about doing a roasted cauliflower with it, but the roasted cauliflower is white, and so is the potato. So maybe we'll just go with some green beans or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to get started with making the meatloaf, and first we'll come together and I'll show you the beautiful ingredients that go into making this meatloaf. Alright, so here we are with our ingredients. Let's just take a brief look. And the first thing that you're gonna notice here, you need ground beef. Ground beef, and I generally don't go with a fatty ground beef here. I like to go with something a little leaner because that meatloaf is going to give off a lot of juices and you just really don't need it. So I would say I'm doing like the 93%. It's a little more expensive, but it's definitely worth it in the long run, I think. We also, with a meatloaf, and the thing about a meatloaf is a depression dish. So it was a way in, you know, like the 30s for people to stretch their meat a lot further by adding fillers. And so basically you got two choices. You can use just regular breadcrumbs, or you can crumble up cracker crumbs. And I've got some leftover crackers here, and I'm really seriously thinking about just crumbling up about a cup of those. So we'll be adding about a cup of cracker crumbs, breadcrumbs, something. I haven't decided yet. Of course, you have to have a stabilizing agent, which is your egg. You'll have one egg, and then we'll dice up that onion nice and fine so that it's added in perfectly. But now that's not the only thing. Now, if your mom made meatloaf, she might have just put ketchup on the top of it. I don't know. But for me, I make a little concoction where I use ketchup, mustard, and brown sugar. I create a sauce, we put it on top of the meatloaf and bake it, and it makes this wonderful caramelized deliciousness that, oh, it's just fabulous. You'll just love it. So anyway, that's the basics for the meatloaf. We're going to put this together, and I will start doing preparation shortly. We'll come back together as we begin doing some of our chopping and prepping. All right, so I did an onion, chopped it up real fine, so when it goes into that meat, it's going to be delightful. And then I crushed about a half a cup of the cracker crumbs. I'm going to finish out the cup with regular breadcrumbs, and I'll tell you, the filler does not really matter so much. The idea is that you're going to use a filler. Like my dad, he always used to use Cheetos, crumbled Cheetos. He loved that, and it made a really good meatloaf, believe it or not. Pretty much anything like that. I mean, I've heard of people using, you know, crumbled corn chips. I've heard of saltine crackers. Ritz crackers is a really good one, or, you know, the Townhouse crackers. Those have a really nice flavor to them. But I just used some crackers that I had left over from a party, crumbled them up, did about a half a cup of those, half a cup of these Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. We're going to go with that because that's what we got in the house. And I've got our onion. And so now what we'll do, we'll go ahead and begin constructing. If you can see from here, and I hope you can, I'm going to set this aside. Now, just a word of warning when making meatloaf, you pretty much have to get your hands in it. That's just the way it rolls. So, get your hands in it. We'll dump that out, and I'm going to set that aside. So, first things first, it's cold. It's going to be cold, but just be prepared for that. You know, put your egg in there, and make sure you don't get any shell in it. I like to go ahead and throw my onion in, and I'll put all of that. It's kind of grossio, but you know what I'm saying? This is how we're going to make this amazing meatloaf. Now, my suggestion when you're making meatloaf, have a dirty hand that's going to be wet, and another hand that's going to be dry. So there is quite a bit to this. Now, we're going to add milk in this, which will help take care of it. You're creating basically meat with filler here. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my breadcrumbs and my cracker crumbs, and I'm going to begin working those in, and you'll begin to see immediately that they start to absorb the moisture that's in that meatloaf, and that's a good thing. That's exactly what we want to happen. So we will absorb some of that moisture and go there. And believe me when I say, even if your meatloaf does not seem super, like, I don't know, like if it seems a little moist once you put your milk in there, don't freak out about that, because honestly, those crackers and the breadcrumbs are going to continue to absorb what you're doing here. And so you can kind of see where we are with just onions, crackers, and egg. It's just basically this conglomeration. Now, without using my disgusting, messy hand, I don't mind on the measuring cup so much. Go ahead and add a cup of milk to this. All right. And again, continue to work this in. Your hands are going to get cold. Be prepared for it. It's cold. What we're doing is we're adding some moisture to this because the breadcrumbs and such are going to absorb. They're going to absorb that liquid, and you don't want this thing to be dry. So by adding that milk, while this seems a little juicy right now, you just keep working it, making sure that milk is worked in there really good. And when you've got it a little stiffer, we can form it in a loaf and put it in a pan. So, all right, so there's the basis of that. I'm going to come back together in just a few moments here. We'll put it in a pan and we'll make the sauce. So that'll be pretty good. Okay, so the thing that we like to do is create a sauce that's, you know, a little more savory than just ketchup. And ketchup was the old days, the old ways. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And I'm just using my crusty old bag here because that's what I got. And then we are going to use 2 tablespoons of prepared mustard, which we will dump in there. Don't generally measure this stuff a lot because it's just not needful. Put a little extra because there's always some in there. And then finally, 1/3 of a cup of ketchup, because it's really a tomato-based kind of thing. Now, there are times when I'll actually do a tomato relish, and I will do tomatoes and peppers and onions and, you know, make a relish to dress the top of my my meatloaf. I'm not going to do that today. We're just doing a basic meatloaf here. And you create this sauce. Now, you're going to find this is gritty. You know, I don't recommend a big taste test right now. You can, but it's a little gritty. So we definitely don't want that. But I'm just going to whip it up, make sure we get all the mustard and ketchup incorporated in one another. What happens is the magic is actually in the oven, because when we put it in the oven, it gets caramelized because of the sugar, and it's a beautiful thing. Don't look at my messy drawer. Okay, so I'm going to go, and still, I didn't get all that ketchup incorporated, but I didn't really use a whisk, so that's probably the big fat why of it. And I'm just going to just distribute this sauce on top of this meatloaf. It's so good. I can't even explain to you how good this is. It is so delightful. And we want it just kind of dripping down the sides and cooking in this until this meatloaf has a nervous breakdown. Now, I put this in an oven, depending on the oven, 350 to 375 degrees. I'm doing 375 because I like mine well done. You know, some say an hour because they don't really like it so cooked. I like to go a little longer, hour and 15, hour and a half even sometimes, depending on what it looks like. And I'll get to it, cut it open, and take a look at the inside and see what I think of it before we proceed. But anyway, we're going to throw this in the oven. I'm going to make up my other sides, and I'll come back to you as soon as we're ready to plate this up. So don't go away. Okay, so now what Pops failed to tell you in all of this is that when I was mixing up that meatloaf, I added salt, pepper, and garlic powder. You definitely want to do seasoning. So I do in that mixture about 2 teaspoons of salt, about a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, about a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Just kind of mix it in as you're doing what you're doing. It's going to add for a lot better flavor. I like it, but of course use salt and pepper to taste. If you think that's too much, lay back some. You do you. You want a little pepper, like a red pepper to it, you can do that. Whatever makes you happy. Use some onion powder in there if you'd like to do it. Again, this is a very versatile recipe, and so we'll come back together momentarily, and I'll let you know what it looks like plated up. Okay, so we're back, and I've got it all plated up, and let me just tell you, it's delightful. It's delicious. It's lovely. So I'm going to give this a taste and let you know if I blew it or if I got it right. You know, I have a hard time messing up meatloaf. I'm sorry. I've been doing this for like 75 years. I'm an old pops. It is what it is, but the beautiful sauciness. Look at the onion and the sauce and the beautiful... Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is to die for. So, and with these potatoes, I don't even do gravy with potatoes when I'm doing a meatloaf. So, you know, and some lovely green beans. Oh, it's a perfect meal. It is. Now, I'm probably going to maybe do some chocolate chip cookies before this is over with. I appreciate you all learning along with me because I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. I'm just making these videos. We're going to have fun with it. I'm going to get better. I promise. I am. Like, I'm doing this on my phone. I've got another camera that I can use, and I may start using that. I don't even really know where to look on the phone. I'm like, why do I look like I am like someplace else with my eyes? So anyway, we're going to do better. We're going to do better. We're going to do better. But not before I enjoyed this amazing meatloaf. I hope you're going to try it because it's so good. And I will put the recipe on my website, which isn't up yet. But at some point, it's going to be up, and it'll be in the link down below. So I'm going to get better. Yes. Red, red wine. Stay close to me. Yeah.